to part 3 out of 6 of the Tapping In series of webinars that we're doing. Before we start tonight, I would like to offer a massive congratulations to all of the nominees and winners of last night's Capel Shire Community Awards. You were all amazing. I had a great night and it was so good to meet so many of you. Keep doing what you're doing because there is some amazing stuff happening, especially for such a small shire such as ours. So congratulations. So tonight we're actually going to have a look at the untapped market of people with impairment. So let's get into it. We'll do a little bit of housekeeping up first. And the most important part of the housekeeping, of course, is the fact that 30-Foot Drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise the continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to them and their cultures, and to elders both past, present and emerging. Must always remember that under this asphalt and concrete, this land is, was and always will be traditional Aboriginal land. We also want to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives like it. Without their support, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys would never actually see the light of day, and as a community we would be much poorer for it. So this workshop is part of the Realities and Advantages of Access Inclusion grant awarded to 30-Foot Drop as part of the Information Linkages Capacity Building Grants of 2018 to 2019. Now, into some of the major housekeeping. First up, unfortunately, we don't actually have the resources to monitor all of the live streams that will be going tonight. So, if you want to actually participate and interact with us throughout the night, really encourage you to head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live. Okay, on that webpage you will find chat boxes that will allow you to interact with us live. Okay? We will also be covering a lot of information in a short amount of time. Okay, so we recommend that attendees take all the actions that they can to minimise distractions. Now, we know that life is life, okay? Some distractions cannot be avoided. Now, if you can't watch the entire webinar tonight, that's fine, okay? Because we're actually recording these and we are posting them and saving them on our Vimeo and YouTube channels. So if you can't stay for all of tonight, head there and you can catch up on what you missed. Or if you want to review anything, that's fine too. We'll also be referencing some research that is being done in this particular field. And all of the research articles and other bits and pieces that we reference tonight are actually available on the 30-Foot Drop Digital Resource Library. So if you want to read any of these documents in full, please head to our website and look at the resource library. There is some amazing stuff there, ranging from Australian standards interpretations to research papers and checklists. Now, at the end of the webinar today, we have a for attendees to complete. Please take the time to fill this out as it helps us immensely, okay? It's 6 questions, 30 seconds, really appreciate it. You'll find that survey at the 30footdrop.com.au/live webpage. Okay, if you scroll down to the bottom and you'll find webinar part 3 out of 6. And that will be where you should go. Now, for those that don't know me, please allow me to quickly introduce myself. Okay, I'm Ben. I am the founder and managing director of 35 Quadriplegic, hence why my hands look kind of odd. Okay, I am see no evil. Now, I am see no evil because I have a very obvious impairment. Okay, you look at me and it becomes very obvious very quickly that I differ from the norm of society, mostly because I use a wheelchair to get around. Now, the reason that I am see no evil is because through me and through the information that you'll gain tonight, you will see no evil about disability and impairment. My co-presenter Lisa, who isn't here tonight but does do a lot of the webinars, is hear no evil. I'm not going to ruin her story, but she is hear no evil because she has an invisible impairment. Okay? And without her actually verbalising and telling you what her impairment is, you would never actually realise that she had any at all. And that is why she is hear no evil. Because using the information that you gather here tonight, you will hear no evil about disability impairment. So that's your 2 wise monkeys. But wait, isn't there normally 3 wise monkeys? See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Well, yeah, you're completely right. There is 3 wise monkeys, and there's going to be some tonight. But who is going to be that 3rd monkey? Well, it's going to be you guys. You are going to be speak no evil. Because of the information that you gain here tonight, you will suddenly realise that there is many business opportunities to be made to be gained when it comes to people with impairment. And that is why you will speak no evil about that particular market. So, what are we going to cover tonight? How are we going to get you started on the path of the wise monkey? Okay, there is a lot to learn about people impairment and their potential impact on your businesses. So, we are going to start by examining the size of the market segment and explaining who they are and what the potential customer base is. Then, we're going to examine the potential impacts that they can have on your business, both the positive and the negative. Then after covering all of this stuff, we're going to wrap up with an open forum session where you can ask any and all questions. And how are we going to do this? Well, the answer is our teaching method is open, honest, fun conversations. Okay, that is how we educate the community here at 30 Foot Drop. So what that means is you can feel free to ask any questions you want at any time. Okay, now they don't have to be related to tonight's subject. They can be anything and everything, and we will answer them because that is what we are here for and that is what we believe in. Okay, so in order to facilitate this, of course, I really encourage you guys to head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live to ask any questions that you have. Now, you will notice that there is very written... sorry, we already covered that. Now, to reduce confusion and to ensure understanding of the subjects that we're covering tonight, I actually want to do a little bit of a terminology review, okay? So this is just looking at some words within our society that we use quite often that are currently being misused. And if I use them in their correct context, will probably confuse you slightly. So let's look at the first one, and that is the difference between disability and impairment. These 2 words are often used interchangeably, and more often than not, the word disability is actually used in the place of impairment. And I hope this explanation will show you why. So, an impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss or difference of physiological or psychological function. In short, your impairment is your medical diagnosis. Okay, it is how you are different from the norm. So, for example, I am a C5 quadriplegic with post-traumatic stress in remission. That is how I function differently to the normal part of society. That is my impairment. A disability, on the other hand, is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with others. Now, this is often due to societal and environmental barriers. Now, if you actually stop and think about the word disability, okay, its origins are in the word disable. Now, to disable something is to make something unable to complete a task or to participate in something. And that's what disability is. A disability is the barriers that you put to stop others from being able to participate. So, for example, stairs disable me from being able to access your shop and actually spend my money there, which means that you are losing potential income. So that is the difference between disability and impairment, and hopefully that has made sense to you. If not, please head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live and ask your questions there, and we will answer them live as we go. The second bit of terminology review is the difference between access and inclusion. Now, a lot of businesses and a lot of people in society think of access and inclusion as one word. But here's the thing. Access means something completely different to inclusion. And it's very important to make sure that people realise the difference between the two. so that when they're saying, yes, we follow access and inclusion principles, okay, that you actually know what you're talking about. So, we'll start off with access. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, both physical and attitudinal, to participation in the activities and functions of a community. At its core, access focuses a lot on the physical world around us and is easily assessed by a checklist. Okay, so some of the things, and this is, okay, let me take a step back. A lot of businesses focus on access when they're talking about people with impairment. Okay, that's because it is so easy to assess. Access is looking at things like ramps, is looking at doorways, is looking at accessible bathrooms. Okay, there are Australian standards that exist around it, along with checklists and guides to help you through it. And so many businesses and organisations only look at that and they don't go any further. Now here's the thing. Access on its own is worthless without the next word, and that is inclusion. So inclusion is different. Where access is looking at the physical, inclusion is looking at the psychological. Okay? In short, inclusion, okay, is the process whereby every person, and I mean every person, okay, inclusion is not just about people with impairment. Okay, so we're talking about irrespective of age, impairment, gender, religion, sexual preference, or nationality. Okay, so it's the process whereby every person within our community who wishes to can participate fully in all aspects of an activity or service in the same way as any other member of the community. Okay, so to use myself as an example, inclusion to me means that I turn up to an activity or a community event and I know that my opinions, my thoughts, my input will be recognised as valuable. Okay, I won't be ignored. I won't be put into the corner. I am actually part of it. And that's why inclusion is so different from access. Access is, can people actually get there? Okay? Inclusion is, when they do get there, do they actually feel like they're part of the event? So that is the difference between access and inclusion. Now, once again, if you have any questions about those subjects, please head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live and use the chat boxes there to ask, and we will answer them live. Okay, and that's what's awesome about these webinars, is the fact that they are live and that we can actually interact with you and answer your questions as you have them. But for now, let's get on to the good stuff, okay, and have a look at the market segment of people with impairment. Now, I like to look at history a fair bit when talking about our market segment of people with impairment, because this is not the first time that a market segment has been ignored or overlooked. So, here is an example for you. So, here's a business idea. Let's ignore a potential market. Now, this is what many sports and athletics-related businesses did until they realised in the mid-1990s that they'd been passing up on an absolute goldmine. Okay? Women. You know, that half of the population that obviously those executives and decision makers within those businesses thought should just be playing with Barbie dolls and prams. Okay? Well, the 1990s proved to be a turning point in this game. Okay? And this is because of the NBC's 1996 Summer Olympic Games coverage. Okay? This coverage actually targeted women much more than previously, and as a result, many more female-orientated sports leagues, such as soccer and basketball, became well known and well seen. An example that is prominent in Australia at the moment is AFLW, okay, where suddenly it has been shown nationally that it is not just the males who can actually participate within this game at a high level, and the participation has gone through the roof. So when participation in sports goes through the roof, suddenly the demand for apparel and equipment also goes through the roof. So, responding to that, many of these businesses started to actually produce equipment lines and advertisements that targeted this new market. And hey, at the end of the day, imagine that. Women would actually be interested in doing the same things as other humans, such as sports. Excuse my sarcasm, but the truth is, and the question is, could many businesses once again be ignoring a potential market? So consider, for example, a market that has clear, persistent needs that are not being adequately fulfilled. This population spans the world, is growing, and includes very, very motivated customers. Since this population is currently being underserved and misunderstood by many businesses, lots of the customers would be grateful and loyal. Loyal customers mean repeat customers. Repeat customers are gold. And this is a population that has an estimated disposable income Australia-wide of $54 billion per year and growing. On top of that, consider the current business market where margins are always tight, and finding a new or neglected population can really help boost your business. So what is this population that I'm talking about? Well, if you're here, you're probably gathering that I'm talking about people with impairment. And you know what? It's true. People with impairment is a market that has been underserved and undervalued for a long time. But mostly because we've been misunderstood by the businesses. So, how big a market share are we looking at? Here's 100% of the population. Okay? Now, a lot of people tend to think that people with impairment, people who require accessible goods and services, and inclusive goods and services, are too much of a minority to worry about. Well, here's the thing. Not all impairments need accessible and inclusive goods and services. They can make do with what they got. But there is definitely a market segment that don't. Okay? And you look at the Australian Bureau of Statistics and you realise that people with profound or severe impairments make up 5% of the population. Okay? So that means 1 in 20 of your community have a profound or severe impairment. Now, these are people who require assistance or have difficulty with mobility, communication, or self-care. In short, they're people like me. Now, add to this, the 4% of the population that are the primary unpaid carers of people with impairment. And suddenly you're looking at least 9% of the population, on their own. Now, this is not including the people that accompany them. So somebody like myself, I don't go out on my own. I will meet other people there. I have friends, I have family who go out with me. So it's actually even more than the minimum share of 9% that we have here. Something to think about. This market is probably a lot bigger than you ever imagined. Now, you may ask that if it is such a big market share, then surely they are already being served. Surely this is not something new. This is something that is already being done. Are there items, services and events such as the Paralympic Games every 4 years for those with impairments? To be honest, from the point of view of somebody with an impairment, that's a bit like saying to women who wanted to play sports in the 1970s, but don't you have hopscotch? You don't need more than that. You're already being served. The truth is that while some businesses do understand this market, many don't. Now, to show that I'm not just a crazy person sitting here telling you about a market, I want to go through some recent research with you. So, in 2017, the Australian Human Rights Commission, in partnership with Deloitte, released a report titled Missing Out, the Business Case for Customer Diversity. And in it, they present their research finding about the missed opportunities that occur when businesses do not extend the values of fairness, equality, and respect to diverse customer bases. Now, this research covered many different diversity areas. Okay, these included gender equality, marriage equality, people with impairments, age, cultural diversity, and practicing a noticeable faith. Now, it is well worth reading for any business owner so you can get an idea of how diversity directly impacts your business. Okay, you will find that in the 30-foot drop digital resource library. Now, for today, I'm just going to focus on the results that relate to people with impairment and to have a look at, are businesses currently meeting their needs? So here are some findings, and I've presented them here in graph format, and I will talk you through them. So the first one, as a customer over the last 12 months, I have often found that organisations do not provide the products and services that I need. Now, going to a place and finding that they don't have the products and services that you need is not unique to people with impairment. But what is interesting here, okay, is that people with impairment are 8% more likely to go to a place and they don't have the goods and services they need, showing that their needs are not being met. Okay, here's the next one. As a customer over the last 12 months, I have usually engaged with organisations with a fear of rejection or embarrassment because of a personal characteristic. Okay, this is interesting because it's not saying in the last 12 months I went to one place. It's saying I have usually. So this means customers who are usually afraid that they are going to be rejected or embarrassed because of who they are, because of something they can't change. Okay, now the majority of the population, that's 14%. People with impairment, it almost doubles. Okay, 26% of people with impairment are engaging with organisations with fear in the background. And do scared customers spend well? They don't. Graph number 3. As a customer over the last 12 months, I was often treated less favourably than other customers based upon a particular characteristic. Once again, this is not saying once in the last 12 months. This is often. Okay, this is something that's happening all the time. Okay, so general population, 1 in 4 people, which on its own is quite high when you think about it. Because once again, if customers feel like they are not getting treated favourably, they're not going to spend. Now this jumps by 12% for people with impairment. Okay, they're not going to spend if they feel like they're getting treated like shite. And now for the last graph. Now this is the one that shocked me the most, okay, out of all of them. As a customer over the last 12 months, I have experienced discrimination by 1 or more organisations. Okay. Once again, this is not getting discriminated by 1. Okay. This is multiple times in a 12-month period. Okay. Look at that difference. 8% of the population feel like they get discriminated against by 1 or more organisations. Okay. This jumps up to almost 30% for people with impairment. That is huge. Okay? And if your customers feel like they're being discriminated against, they're not going to spend money. Okay? That's what this is about. This is a segment of the population who are not getting treated the way they would like to. If you want to attract them, you need to rectify that. So we've looked at the fact that there is a market whose needs are not being met. Now, numbers are all well and good, but I want to give you a little bit of an understanding of who this market share is. Who are they? Because in order to attract a market, in order to attract customers, you need to understand more about the actual customer themselves. So, Who are people with impairment? People with impairment are just people like all of us. We are all human at the end of the day, and we share a lot of characteristics. We all have passions, loves, and families. Okay? We purchase consumer goods like food, clothing, and cars. We go to the movies, we go out to dinner, we go on holidays. People with impairment can be found everywhere within our society. Okay? In short, people with impairment are active contributors to the community and the economy. Okay? As a result, we represent a market share to all businesses. Okay? All businesses and organisations. Now, because we are a market segment of your business, we are also how to impact your business or organisation. How we impact you is up to you and the decisions that you make. So let's have a look at some of the impacts people with impairment can have on your business. Now, when it comes to minorities, okay, and people with impairment, we are a minority, okay? People, business owners, decision makers can often say, it's only a minority, okay? There isn't enough of them to make a difference. Now, as we said earlier, we can safely say that this population is at least 9%, okay? Which is still quite large. Okay, when you think they're looking at that, that means 1 in 10 of your potential customers require accessible goods and services for some reason or another. But what research has actually shown is that people with impairment are a decisive and influential minority within our society. And this is really, really important to keep in mind. Okay? So let's have a closer look at these results. Let's quickly talk about ceasing transactions. Okay? Purchasing power, regardless of what business or organisation you're involved with, purchasing power is always in the hands of the customers. Okay? And when people don't get what they want, either in terms of product or service, they cease transactions. Now, cease transactions are interesting and something that not a lot of businesses think about. But when you take into account the amount of investment that you get, or you have to actually, the amount of investment that you have to put into a customer to get them to the point where they're deciding whether or not to make a transaction with you, it's actually quite daunting. Okay? You take into account marketing, product research, websites. If you have an actual physical shop front, the costs for that. Actually getting the word out there, buying the product itself, investing in that. There is massive amounts of investment that go into running a business. Now, if the customer gets all the way from being a non-customer who hears about you, all the way up to thinking about actually making the transaction, they have already used up a lot of your investment. Okay? And when they say no, that's actually a loss. So, in the Missing Out report, they actually examine this idea closely, okay, around ceasing transactions and the power that customers have by doing it. Now, what they actually do is actually add 2 other factors, and this is respect and fairness. Now, what they've found from that, okay, is that people with impairment are more likely to cease a transaction when they feel that they're either not getting treated fairly, as in this case, okay, where it jumps from 18% to 29%, and if they're not getting treated with respect, jumps from 19% to 29%, okay? Basically, this shows that around 1 in 3 people with impairment, okay, when not treated with respect and fairness, are actually more likely to cease the transaction, showing that a negative experience is more likely to drive these customers away. Okay, so getting the experience right in the first place is essential. But more than just walking away from a sale, people with impairment are twice as likely as the rest of the population to dissuade others from using the product or service. Okay, so what this means is that somebody like myself, if I rock up to your business and I'm not treated with dignity, respect, fairness, and I decide to cease the transaction, I am twice as likely to tell other people about that bad experience and drive the customers away. Twice as likely. We may make up a small percentage of the population, but our reach is large. Now, I have been asked in the past if supporting diversity in business can actually have an adverse effect. Okay? Can it drive your current customers away? The Missing Out report found that only 12% of people, okay, were negatively affected by a business's diversity reputation. So basically they went, oh, what, you're welcoming more people into your business? Well, I'm out of here. Only 13% are negatively impacted. Okay? On the flip side of the coin, 58% are positively impacted, and about 30% really couldn't care. Okay? Now, what is really interesting about these findings is that, unfortunately, what is interesting about these findings is that this is not impairment specific finding. Okay? This finding is a general finding, okay, that takes into account many divisive diversity areas. Okay? So if you look up here, they're saying, as a customer in the last 12 months, my buying choices were negatively impacted by an organisation's reputation and supportive of, okay, and now remembering this is 2017, there was some very divisive subjects at that time around gender equality, marriage equality. Okay, this includes those because basically they're saying if this organisation supports gender and marriage equality, people with impairments, older people, cultural diversity, showing a noticeable faith, then I'm out of there. These are really divisive subjects. Most people are saying that the more diverse your customer base is, the more likely I am to buy. Interesting, isn't it? So to finish off this segment, okay, I want to read you the most relevant key finding from this report, the one that I loved the most and made me go, wow, I'm onto something here. Okay, and that is that customers with impairment are 3 times more likely to avoid an organisation and twice as likely to dissuade others from using that organisation because of their negative diversity reputation. Okay. In summary, what this means is that if your business is not accessible or inclusive, then you're already being negatively impacted by this market segment. And that is like trying to sail a boat with the anchor still down. Okay? You're already being negatively impacted by it. Now, that's a negative impact on your business that we can have. Let's have a quick look at the positive impact. And that is ethical consumerism. Now, for those that have never heard of the term or unsure of it, let me explain it, okay? Ethical consumerism is a form of political activism based upon the idea that purchasers and markets consume not only goods, but implicitly embrace the processes used to produce them. Okay? By choosing certain products over others, or even whether to purchase them at all, consumers can embrace or reject particular environmental and labour practices and make other value claims based on the ethical values that they hold. Exercising choice in this way, okay, creates incentives for producers to make production practices conform to consumer values. So what it is people saying, hey, the way that you're making that doesn't align with what I believe, so therefore I'm not going to buy. Successful campaigns that align with this sort of idea are ones such as dolphin-free tuna, foods that are free from GMOs, sweatshop-free clothing, fair trade coffee, cosmetic products free from edible testing, conflict-free diamonds, organic products. There are so many products that are popular as a result of ethical consumerism. Okay, so that's what it is. So how can we apply this? How can we apply this to impairment? Okay. I love looking at big business for these sort of examples. Okay, because the big businesses and companies within Australia, they have the ability to be able to research and to be able to put time and effort into decisions before they make it. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to have a look at Coles and Woolworths. And what they have done around impairment that increases their ethical reputation and their ethical consumerism numbers is a program called the Quiet Hour. Now, for those that don't know it, this program was originally trialled by Coles and expanded throughout Australia, and Woolworths has gone, oh crap, that's a good idea, and adopted it themselves. Okay, so what it's based around is the fact that some impairments make people hyper-aware of their surroundings. Now, when you're hyper-aware, it makes activities such as going to the supermarket very challenging. Okay, I'm one of those. Post-traumatic stress disorder, when I become triggered, I become hyper-aware of my surroundings, unable to relax around any changes. Okay, and supermarkets become an absolute living hell for me. So, what Coles and Woolworths are now doing is that every Tuesday between 10:30 and 11:30 a.m, store lighting is dimmed by 50%, the radio is switched off, register and scanner volumes are reduced to their lowest levels, trolley collection is stopped, and roll cages are removed from the shop floor. The PA announcements are also stopped, except in the case of emergencies, of course. Free fruit is offered at the customer service, and additional team members are available to support customers. What this makes is an environment where, as somebody who is hyper-aware, okay, it suddenly becomes freeing because you can do this without exhausting yourself. Okay, it has made a great difference to so many people. And it has also increased the ethical reputation of both Coles and Woolworths by doing it. Okay, if you search the internet for the Quiet Hour, you'll see it's been published in all of the major papers, on all of the morning shows, in the news. It was everywhere. Okay, and how do you think this has affected the consumers? Positively. Okay, how do you think it's affected the people with impairment who use it? Positively, who are no longer going to be one of the ones who are dissuading others to use that product. They become their champions. And that is how you can use ethical consumerism, or an example of how you can use ethical consumerism to increase your business. So, with that, we have covered what we intend to tonight. I really hope you guys have enjoyed what we've gone over. We're going to do a little bit of an open forum session in a second. Now, not everybody will stay, and that's fine. For those that aren't staying, please head to the 30-Foot Drop live page and fill out the survey. It really, really helps us. And if you've enjoyed what we've done tonight, please like us, follow us, leave a comment, rate us, review us. Okay, all of these things on social media and the other platforms. It really, really helps to grow our brand. And if you think this information could be useful to anybody, please share it with others. Now, open forum time. I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to chuck in all the questions that you can think of. Now, they don't have to be related to tonight. They can be related to anything and everything to do around impairment. I'm happy to answer personal questions and everything else in between. But in order to do so, you need to head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live and use the chat box there. So I'm going to give you guys just about over 5 minutes to chuck in any questions that you've got. During that time, I'm going to pause the stream, and I really hope that people take advantage of this, because interacting with you guys, my audience, is amazing. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys until 6:45 to chuck in any questions that you got, at which point I'll come back online and I'll answer them live. Yeah, so I'll catch you in about 5 minutes. Okay, it appears that we don't have any questions tonight. So, for everybody who attended and has watched what we're doing or is watching this in review, thank you very much. And look after yourselves, look after each other, and I'll catch you next time.